Who's hosting?
I am Chris.
Who? Raise your hand.
Chris,
Oh, Chris. Yeah. Uh, you should have gotten a request for me to record.
and I hit approve or yes or whatever. I agreed.
Okay. Let's see if we're on. I guess we are on. It's just we're both recording.
Yes.
This meeting twice a week, although I enjoy it very much, it's not a way really to learn about nothingness. There's nothing to do and nowhere to go. Because that is a kind of profound change in your mind from ordinary mind. In ordinary mind, we're in somebody else's world, not our own. We're in a world of United States concepts, Western concepts about who we are and where we are and why we are and what's good and bad. But what I'm trying to teach you is it's that which is the illusion, not what we experience in meditation. Our normal American minds are fully formed and have judgments and understanding about everything. But that's blind stupidity. We spend so many times learning what the correct interpretation of the world is that we put ourselves in a very tiny box with psychological concepts, some religious concepts, stories about Zen masters or about other spiritual teachers. And it gives us no foundation to understand who we really are and what we really are. So generally what happens at Zen centers, it happened to me, is after years of sitting, days will come when you wake up and you have no idea where you are, why you are. And at first, you'll panic because it's like being a little nobody in the midst of a vast land that isn't yours. And it may cause a little bit of fear, but mostly you realize your brain is not doing what it usually does, which is to fit you into the matrix that all the rest of us are in. The good part is you learn not to be so sure of yourself when it comes to living in the world and your way of living in the world, your understanding of what the world is. And that's what spiritual training is all about, is out with the old and add nothing new. Just get rid of the old stuff. The learning will come automatically. But I literally felt like I had been tossed out of the world. I had no idea what I was or where I was. That lasted about a week, maybe 5 days. And what I really learned from it is the vast difference between an experienced meditator and almost everyone else who hasn't learned to question the external world as presented to them and which they think they know because they grew up in it all their lives. We grow up in a manufactured existence. We're trained in it for 13 years in kindergarten through graduation, another 4 years of college, and another 2 or 3 years getting an advanced degree. By then, we have no concept of how to get to know mind and viewing what we are without concepts. To be totally without concepts and ability to form concepts can be quite frightening. It hits you like a brick. You have no idea who you are or where you are. Your mind just doesn't seem to function, like it's taken a vacation. But it doesn't last long because you find out that you don't explode or blow away just because you don't know who or what you are. It's not that great of a feeling when it first happens to you. You know something really different has happened to you now. Your understanding, the weight of your being is in a completely different place than it was the day before. It's like you're in a place where you don't know what's going on and you're waiting for instructions, and the instructions don't come. I guess the natural course would be for people to reside in that state for a fairly long period of time and get to know who or what they are without words until they're comfortable doing that and they see that there's a different reality that you are than when you're thinking, your mind is moving. And what we meditators do is we try to get to an empty mind so our observations aren't tainted by preconceptions or understandings. I'll tell you, the trip is very hard because you're going against the grain of all the rest of the world. The American world is different from the British and the British from the French and the French from the Russian from the Chinese. Each culture is quite incompatible with the others, but compatible more or less within itself. But there's something in you, in your understanding, in your mind, that doesn't need understanding. Understanding is basically shit. Most people spend so much of their time in their minds thinking about what they want to do or what is the nature of reality. So they go on meditation tours or things like that. But the real key is to be searching for a way out from the mind's understanding and grasp. Naturally, it seems simpler because when you're in it, there's no conflict. There's no one opinion of clashing with another, or one's world sense clashing with somebody else's. It's just that there's nothing there inside of you. You're like the empty wind. Now, you can react to it with fear because it's something sudden and very different. Or you can say to yourself, well, finally, let's go on with this and start living without a mind. Eventually, within a few days, the mind will come back and reconstitute the human world you were in before. But you'll know that it's only a parochial point of view. It's one way of being and thinking. It's really centered on the American intellectual life, American political life, and so forth. People from Europe or who visit a lot of other countries understand this instinctively, that they've lived in a partial world and now they're there in the world that is before time and space and existence. And the key really is to learn to enjoy these breaks. You fought so hard for doing months and months and months of meditation, years maybe. Because meditation produces different kinds of no mind events. There's an incredible amount of brain activity that accompany all the things we do in meditation, Zen, and Zen-like environments like Robert. So they come back and they try to dispel us of our illusions by saying the world you live in isn't real. They want to show you a reality that doesn't depend on being an American in Los Angeles or Cleveland in the 21st century. It may take you a while to penetrate into this no mind way of living. But it's never very uncomfortable at all. It has a very welcoming flavor to it. It invites you to become mindless and to approach your life by someone who doesn't know about it. You start all over again, being a 6-month-old baby mentally. Actually, you're wiser than that when you go back to the beginning. You know you're leaving the world of thought, of Americana, of our ways of being. And you know that this is just a way for you to escape a rigid existence that you had before. We weren't meant to grow up in a society where you train for the first 20 or 22 years of your life Then you performed a function for the next 40 years or 50 years. And then you retire. You try to unlearn everything you've learned. So you have the chance of being open again to perceiving things anew, a new way of being, without a mind that judges, without a mind that seeks, with a mind that suddenly seems not to be there at all. The brain doesn't feel like it's inhabited anymore. You're in a place where there's no concepts, no up and down, no daddy to tell you what's going on. You're there and you don't have any idea where you are. And it's a great feeling because there's also no homework to be collected at the end of the session, at the end of the week, about what you're learning here in this world of emptiness. Now, the reason spirituality is so hard because there's so many of the alternatives, and all of them seem to be different from each other and want to expose the others as frauds. So Zen people won't like having warm, emotional people into their camp. And warm, emotional people will try to, or will understand or believe you to be crotchety old fucks that you don't know whether you should take seriously or not, or you should just leave. Like so many left Mount Baldy when I was there, the newcomers. They thought that they were coming there to learn something elevated that would elevate them in the eyes of people and increase their own sense of self-worth. But none of that seems to happen, really. You just see her living being. And the thought processes create a hallucination, which everybody shares some common elements with, and which we call the educational system, colleges, high schools, the grade schools, the kindergartens, as gradual acculturation to a very wordy existence. Well, I come here and say, fuck you, that's not it. Don't do that anymore. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to put yourself in a place that you probably won't want to be in the future. Instead, take the world as you see it now as just provisional. And what you're trying to achieve is the mind before that provisional world has arisen. The mind that is very simple. There's no concepts there. It's the mind of pre-human, I guess. We're so proud of our religious understanding. And so many people ask for what your credentials are when it comes to what religion you belong to. And when you tell them you don't have any or you have many, they'll just put you into their reject box. Even if you have power over them, they will understand you with contempt. Almost like being a barbarian or somebody with different mental diseases. It's really hard to understand the true way someone from a different place and time experiences themselves in the world. Foreigners come, let's say, from the United States and from Australia and France, etc., to a new place. And they all go through the same learning process that they did when they were young, but which is probably a different awakening and learning process of that native culture. It's altogether artificial from the point of view of everybody else. What we see is, in a sense, no better than an opinion. And the world we perceive doesn't last long at all. But we've isolated enough of the things you have to do and be in order to exist in this dream world. And if you can consider where you are pre-enlightenment as a dream world, it really helps. Because you can really take the time off. Take the time off of your old agenda, whatever that is, to acquire knowledge or realization or whatever. And instead, just investigate life and what goes on through direct awareness. You try to apprehend your own existence and that of the world by realizing you're a stranger in a strange land. This land that you think is home is really artificial. And at best temporary. The unto human mind really doesn't touch reality. It creates a well-defined village of people that have congruent views and have more or less harnessed everybody to one dream. Some do it better than others. And they're the bright stars of the educational system. Other people who say, I don't know what the fuck is going on, in a sense, are much deeper. Because being in the world and experiencing the world doesn't make sense unless we fill it full of entities and concepts that guide us. how to stay with a job, how to get a job, how to learn what you need for that job, how to do it for 20 years without getting so bored out of your mind you shoot yourself or shoot somebody else. You have to learn to just rough it. Yeah. This kind of examining of the world really starts by looking within. And by that, I mean you shut up and pay attention to yourself, to your body, to your mind and your thinking, your mind and your ideas about the world. And you can go to other people, the so-called mystics, and Zen master, or an emperor without clothes, and begin to learn how to accommodate the experiences of the world into your own private dream. In most cases, this new provisional reality is hard to get to, and it's hard to maintain because we're so familiar with the familiar. To throw away 50 years of understanding or to gain a deeper understanding of the world or oneself, it requires courage to find out that from your own point of view, you might regard yourself as what my father would call a numbnut. Somebody that's forgot their own roots in humanity. No, there's another way of practicing, which is a way of approaching it, a meditation. Instead of with a particular attitude about the external world, it's to be learned or to be left behind. Is to see how your concept, your experience of the Western world fits into some framework or other, either inside of you or externally in some group of people. You can never find immortality this way. Immortality is a belief. You won't find immortality inside yourself. You find no self. And no self destroys the superiority you think you are above animals and other people. You become just another song in the wilderness as everyone else is listening to or generating. I don't know if Sasaki is still alive. I think I may have heard that he had died at 106 or 107. And it's probably changed now more at Mount Baldy than it's ever been before. So what I learned there wouldn't be what you'd learn now. But it's quite important to find out what life is like embedded in a full-blown alternate reality where you can watch your old reality disappear and the new one, which is much less wordy, being formed. Imagine after a year or two of being able to sit by the side of a lake and just look out over the lake and find yourself interested in what's going on there without thinking about it at all. Actually, here you're rewarded for being a student of learning the principles and ideas and dreams of humanity and the various subgroups in humanity and joining them with the label of American or British or intellectual or criminal. Whether you fight that label or you accept it, in the end, there's nothing to learn, nothing to understand, except that where you are and what you think you are at this moment is most probably wrong. When you meditate and can bring yourself into your belly or into deeper roots of your own consciousness, in a sense, you expand. Now, just for the sake of laughs, does anybody have a question? Does anybody want a question? Messalina, do you know your ass from a hole in the ground? You've never heard that before, huh?
No, I didn't hear you. What do I know?
I forgot what I just said. What did I just say? Okay, I'll put it this way. I won't try to get the context going again, but there's a saying where I came from and grew up. It's very primitive. Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
And then when somebody thinks you've been a real asshole,
Mm-hmm.
they say, you can't tell the difference between your ass and a hole in the ground, but you're completely out of existence. You just have no clue of how to put anything together except what's put together in your belief system. Fortunately, Chris and Bernadette have a cat there that's telling them all along how to be. Cats are so fabulous when you're a meditator. They don't believe in your lifestyle, even though they get used to it, because that's how they get fed. Their primary interest in life is getting fed. Secondarily, it's to cuddle with other cats and get along with other cats that may be in the house or a dog. Thirdly, then finally to get a hold and close to you. And if you have a cat that repeatedly comes up and falls asleep comfortably in your lap, you're entering an area of bonding with an animal that is so different from bonding with a human, because the love you feel is pure love. It's not got any tags along with it, boyfriend, girlfriend. It's extremely pure and it penetrates your soul. Now, at this halfway point, does anybody have any questions? Esselina, what's the difference between your ass and a hole in the ground?
It's
Show
just
me.
the same. There's no difference.
You mean a random hole in the ground is the same as your asshole?
Why do you want to be so specific?
It's the shock value of bringing the question up in this context. Makes you think, and thinking that you can't understand what the fuck is going on. And when you feel that you can't understand what the fuck is going on, you're free in a sense, but you don't do it anymore.
Mm.
Nobody calls on you to make sense of it outside of their narrow way of looking at things, and you know how to imitate their way of doing things real well, even though you couldn't stand doing it.
What's the difference between your asshole and a hole in the ground?
Well, that's an interesting way of approaching it. My asshole to me is far more profound than any other asshole in the world, because it's my asshole. And I'm closer to it than any other hole, including the Grand Canyon.
I think we have the title for this satsang.
Jay, have you ever made it to the Grand Canyon?
Yes, I have, actually.
How long ago?
30, 40 years ago.
How did you
Well,
feel? Do you remember?
it was breathtaking, really. Just, it's, it, if you speak or talk while you're there, you break the spell. There should be silence. it's an act of grace that just took my breath away, as you do.
So I'm like the Grand Canyon or a big hole in the ground.
Having nothing to do with the last topic of conversation. Yes, you take my breath away. And
I'll try to return your breath to you at some point.
the terrain that you range over leaves me with questions, but it's sort of like an open book test. And I don't know what to say, because the questions seem to be a waste of time, certainly in the context of what Robert would say. The question would be, who am I? But you don't answer it because you are the answer, or you are the question, or the seamlessness of it is something so pure that I'm just crushed. I don't know where to go with it. So I go nowhere with it. And that seems like grace.
It is grace.
So that's, you
live in grace more so than most of the other people here.
Edgy.
They're not talking to me though, so I don't know how stupid they are.
Edgy, I love you.
How stupid are you, Eddie? Where the fuck are you on the spectrum?
Oh, pretty far. Pretty far. I find that it's a good thing to be perceived as stupid, then people leave me alone and they don't want to talk to me. So it's been good having that perception lately, because I don't want to talk about the shit they want to talk about anyway. So it's better. This is better.
So you've reached the status of perceived assholehood.
Well, not necessarily asshole, more like that slow guy. It's just like, you don't want to talk to him, he's too slow.
Mark, can you say people talk to people about how deep you can feel after pursuing this path for 3 or 4 years?
Well, I've been pursuing this path for longer than 7 years, but it's extremely hard to express, but it's the difference between having the burden of existence on your shoulders continuously in one form or another and being free of that, and just being like the wind or the sky or the stream, just being effortlessly in the moment and without, and feeling fully supported while having nothing to hold on to. There's no need to hold on to anything because you're in your home. You're in what you are.
Conceptually, that explains something, but how does it feel?
Feels great, which I've said many times before. It feels, what does it feel like? It's really hard to express. It feels like wonderful. It feels euphoric, often feels euphoric. There's a background of peace and of everything is okay just the way it is. And there's no need to complicate it with anything. It's fulfilling in a way that one can't predict until one lives it. And there's the ever deepening, ever refining, ever more integrating of the base of the realization, which is
In a
endless.
sense, it feels like you're polishing the basic realization experience and getting rid of the dregs holding on to the edges, the old world. like taking a long bath.
Which dovetails into a topic that I was thinking of speaking of, but I might put my foot in my mouth. But there are those that are able to go very deep into beingness, into meditation, into whatever you want to call it, and then there's a ping-ponging once the meditation is over back into the usual self. And what I would suggest is it may be fruitful to investigate what exactly is happening. What is this contracted self that one returns to? Why does it return? What is its nature? If we can look deeper into the reasons that this contracted state keeps happening, like not intellectual reasons. I mean, the felt, the emotions, the bodily sensations, the images that come up, all that is behind the contraction, because I reached a point where I was experiencing that, not at the same level, like on a more subtle level. And I would look at it and say, why is this happening? And I would sit with the feeling of the contraction. I would go deep into it. And at the same time, I would allow beingness to be there to varying extent. And I realized, no, this needs to be worked out. These issues that I'm feeling need to be acknowledged, number one. And number two, they need to be processed effectively. And there's a good reason why one returns to a contracted state. It's because there's fear. There's fear, there's uncertainty, there's doubt. All concepts that come to one that has one question about the path is a form of doubt or fear or uncertainty or whatever. All doubts, all objections are thoughts. All thoughts are false in the sense of the path. They're all obstructions. They're all hanging on to what is known and fearing the true, the real, which is understandable, but which is also can hinder one's progress unless it's unless it's acknowledged, number one, understood what it is, number two, felt deeply, number three. And in time, its hold will hopefully lessen. That's all I can really say at this time. Hopefully that if it doesn't resonate, throw it out. But this is part of my lived experience to date.
At first, living in a Zen center where the practices are very intense during the winter, and in America where they're both summertime and wintertime retreats. It's a very different lifestyle from what we lead every day. There's no teacher there checking your answers against the usual criteria. By the way, somebody copied all of the koans he worked in under Sasaki Roshi, and he published them. And Sasaki heard about it. And he said publicly, I'm going to change all the answers to koans completely. And that's easy to do because koans classically had more than one level where they're supposed to hit you. But I just thought that was an interesting place to throw it in, supporting what you were saying. Jay, you're the other long timer. Now you're wearing sunglasses. Are you a doper now too?
No, they're prescription. Not that I have a problem seeing the screen, but I had an eye infection, and I just wore. I mean, they're bifocals, so
They're what?
no, they're bifocals. I mean, I can't read close up anymore, but no, they're it's not an affectation. I mean, it may be, but it's, as I said, they're prescription, so um, just cosmetic, maybe. I don't know.
Michael's not here. He rarely missed one. Maybe he's leaving us. He's changing.
No, he's not leaving. He's probably asleep.
Okay. Catherine, what say you? Who are you? Why are you here? And why don't you go away?
That's nice. Something's working on me.
Something is working on you?
Yeah, since I started coming 6 months ago or 7 months ago, something's working on me.
What does it feel like?
One part of me is happy that at last something is happening inside of me. Another part of me finds it difficult, and there's fear. You said earlier today something I really enjoyed. You said it's getting rid of the old and not getting any new in. And getting rid of the old is pretty easy for me, but not getting anything new in to replace the old, that's tough.
It's hard because you feel like a ghost.
Yeah.
Nothing to hold on to anymore. You don't have any substance. And any thought is just talking about substances and perceptions and fields and forces. And to have none of that, oh, our co-host here, this is little Eddie. He's the only cat named after me.
Yeah, he's cute.
He's a very wise cat because it has nothing to do with anybody, not even me. There's nothing like that can beat an affectionate cat if your connection with the cat is deep. I've never had a connection with a cat that wasn't superior to my connection to anybody else in the world. You know, even with Robert, I always felt a little reserved because his world was so different from mine. A little of holding myself back. Plus, there was a lot of drama where people pictured Robert doing things for his own benefit. So the human mind interprets the way it used to do it by making up stories. And from my point of view, the stories are always wrong because they're one-sided and they're very flimsy. They're not solid. They don't have substance. As a matter of fact, you don't have any substance anymore either. And you can learn to live with it and enjoy it. To be without substance or existence. And you go through a stage where you feel like a ghost. Sometimes it can last a long time. But other people spend years meditating and they don't move an inch from where they started. And this could mean that they have the wrong discipline for escaping from their old self and finding a new self. That's what Zen training is for, is to leave the old world of thought and gain a new world of living by gut, so to speak. Because even if we live in the human world, we have alarms inside of us that tells us this or that is not suitable for our shared interpreted reality. May not always know why, but the guardrails are there for a Zen student. In any event, it's not easy to be able to live in true emptiness for a long time. But sucking one feels is part of the process that we have to get used to as we progressively change and lose our orientation towards the world and get a new orientation, more centered in ourselves. Lorena, you're relatively new. What are you thinking about all of this? Don't start speaking so freely right away. Hold back for a year or two. Bernadette, how are you?
Good. Thanks.
How's your transformation going?
I like it.
What?
I like it. Very
Yeah.
simple. Life is very simple. Feels good.
Good. Roger looks like a future Buddha. He sits there very strong. What's going on in your mind, Roger?
I'm trying to place the attention in the heart and just be there and not to seek.
Not to what?
Not to seek.
Okay. Good. That's one way. Yeah. What do you feel, though?
sometimes I'm lost in that, which is in a way good. That means it's not it's not going anywhere. But sometimes there is that separation, and when I see that there is separation, that means the mind is wanting to run somewhere. So it is a little bit of that dance happening. But when that lost happens, it's almost like a semi-sleep, I know, but there's nothing. So I don't know if that is emptiness or what it is, but it just feels that I'm lost in there. That's the feel like. It's good.
I could say about myself, during the years that I was training and going to Zen masters or going to sesshin or retreats, I never knew what the fuck was going on. But it felt good, felt clean. It felt as if I were in the right way. Matter of fact, I still don't know what the fuck is going on. I make stuff up as if I knew what was going on, but it's really just an opinion based on my experience, which is not necessarily true at all, but true in a general sense, not maybe in the specific sense of here and now. You see that painting in the wall behind me? I've seen that picture all my life. It was my grandmother's, and it was a gift given to her by somebody she worked for. She worked for wealthy families in Cleveland, in Shaker Heights. And many of them gave her things. I look at the picture now, and although I feel comfortable about it, I really have no idea what it's about. Just as I have no idea what the world is about. It doesn't matter anymore. I can function well without having an idea of the world, because everything that I am has been pounded flat and then made porous through Zen practices. So the world doesn't bear heavy on me. That changes when, of course, a cat dies and I go through a period of crying and feeling misery. Right, Eddie? He's staring at me, looking for something to be acknowledged, and I just did. Spencer, how have you been? You never talk much.
I just don't really know what to say.
Fortunately, I had no idea what you just said. It was too distorted.
I don't really know what to say most of the time.
Anybody can take a guess at what he said?
He doesn't really know what to say.
Lorena, you're new. Are you puzzled? Can you tell me what's going on? Nobody else can, including me. Dean, you changed about 20 minutes ago and came back to satsang. What was going on with you?
It's because my bum hurts so much I have to go and sit on the sofa.
Say that again.
I think you call it a butt in America, perhaps. Buttock. I got pain in my lower back, so I can't, so it's hard sitting up. So I go and
Got
sit.
a pain in your ass.
Yes, I'm a pain in the ass, that's right. And do you think the good thing about having a pain when you're meditating, it gives you something to focus on? Is that a good thing to focus on?
Sure.
Okay. That's the good thing about it then.
Vesselina, do you have any questions?
No. I mean, I have questions, but I asked them to myself, and I can't find an answer for them, so yeah. But I like the satsang very much. Except your jokes from
You don't like my jokes?
Yeah, from Cleveland. Yeah.
You're expressing a universal point of view, I think.
It's a new saying that I've never heard. But apart from that, yeah.
Catherine really enjoyed what you said just now. She shares that point of view with you. Chris, how are you doing?
Well, I enjoyed your ass and hole in the ground comment. I thought that was funny. I think the one thing that I can to summarize where I'm at is don't make stuff up. I watch, my thoughts are all made up. They're fears or conclusions about the past or interpretations and judgments, but it's all made up crap. It's all made up. And what I know is like it's simple. What I mean by all I really know is I'm here. That's it. And what I am that here, I don't know, but there's some sort of bottom line is don't make stuff up. I keep coming back to that whenever my mind tells me something and wants to get attention. It's all made up stuff. And I just keep watching that over and over and over that it tells me things and I say that's garbage. That's not true. And then it just does more and more. And then that feels like I'm not responsible for the thoughts. It feels like more and more like these thoughts come to me and through me but not me. And I can just watch. They might be annoying. They might be like traffic noise sometimes, but it's all noise and it's not me. And when you told your ass out on the ground story, it reminded me of something we talked that we had when I was a kid. And it was, if it takes 2.5 chickens, 2.5 days to lay 2.5 eggs, how many pancakes does it take to shingle a doghouse?
What's the answer?
It's just nonsense. That's what I liked about it. There's no answer. It's just basically shut the fuck up. There's no answer. And the other, oh yeah, one other thing I keep coming back to is lighten up for me. I take this spiritual, I was taking this and I take it way too seriously. When I watch my mind, I get kind of, I can get really attached to the watching. And rather than just letting it go, I can overanalyze and think of why is it like this or why isn't it like that? And so I think for me, I guess I have like these Chris's rules of spirituality. Don't make stuff up and lighten up. Those are the two things that keep coming back to me over and over and over. So that's because I've been here and working stuff with you and Egamon's little kitty cat there. So thank you. That's all I got.
Were your kitty cats?
Well, what happened was when you said your asshole on the ground thing, both Burnett and I started laughing and they got scared and took off. So they didn't like the joke or they didn't like us laughing at the joke.
Vesselina, where's your kitties?
They're in the other room with my parents.
Your both parents are visiting you?
Yeah, because it's Easter here this weekend.
Ah. At least they won't be pressing you too hard to ask you what you're going to be doing the rest of your life.
Oh yeah, but we already talked about that. We always do.
Okay. You didn't escape it.
No.
What are you going to do with the rest of your life?
I don't know. I think I'm just gonna go to a cave so nobody can ask me that. I just want to run away from that question because I don't know. Not sure.
Even if you were sure, it'd pretty much be a lie.
No, I wish I knew.
Eggman has a white kitty.
Yeah, I just thought that I should buy a new cat, I mean a kitten, like to experience the joy of life. And I found it. This is a special one for me. And I don't know. After the retreat, I felt like I had no shell, but just joy. And maybe I found a mask for me that I can enjoy during the flight. I really admired the captain, the other captain that was flying. He was a very strong man. He was like the Zorba the Greek. He lived life to the fullest. And like he gave to life what life asks him to give. He burned himself. And unless I burn myself with doing whatever I want, I feel like I can't do it.
That you what?
I feel like the way is to do whatever you like, whatever comes from your heart, from inside, from that point. Dantian. I felt Dantian during the retreat, and it was so nice looking at that, and I understood what introspection is. I mean, looking into yourself is like seeing your beauty and being mesmerized by it and losing yourself. But I'm losing it. I don't feel it right now, but I try to listen to music as much as possible. Try to chant, sing, shouting, you know. I shout, I mean, I sing and shout. And I really enjoy life, and I surrender. I accept whatever comes. But it's an adventure for me. I am very interested in life right now. And I like meditating, but I don't like doing nothing all day long. I like enjoying life for the moment. Maybe, I don't know. What's your opinion about it?
No, that's fine. It's fine. It's better to feel joy in life than it is to wonder what the fuck's going on in life. It's simpler. It flows better. And it keeps changing. Your attitude towards the whole thing changes and changes and changes. But it doesn't matter to you much anymore. It's not a topic at the top burner of your stove anymore. Anyway, I love you all. Glad you came. Hope you come on Wednesday and next Sunday. Bring some challenging questions and something to eat. We always wondered about something to eat after satsang more than anything else. So some people used to bring stuff for people to eat at every satsang. And I thought that was so neat. We never did it back in the days with Robert. Even once in a while, every couple or 3 months, we'd have a special day of satsang, which is more like a meet and greet. But I didn't want to meet those people. Anyway, see you Wednesday. Okay. Bye-bye.